United Nations inspectors say they found man-made uranium at a secret site inside Iran, according to the Associated Press. It's more evidence that Tehran is violating the 2015 nuclear deal, which aimed to keep Tehran from getting nuclear weapons. President Trump withdrew from that agreement last year. The AP is citing a brand new report issued by the UN's atomic watchdog for member countries. The report seems to back up U.S. and Israeli claims that Iran has been operating secret nuclear facilities, even while getting passing grades from international weapons inspectors. Australian ambassador to the United States, Joe Hockey, joins me now. Ambassador, thanks for being here.
Great to be with you, Bret.
You've got a lot of experience on the international front, national security. When you hear this story about Iran, what's your first reaction?
Well, no one should be surprised. I think there'll be a lot of people disappointed, but no one should be surprised. Iran has said that they're not going to comply with the JCPOA, the international agreement in relation to restrictions on Iran, but at the same time, they have to comply with the global laws relating to the treatment of nuclear, not only waste, but importantly, the stuff that goes to make energy and a range of other things. So the bottom line is we are all disappointed, but we're not surprised.
Do you sense that Europe is going to change its tune as far as how it has been dealing with this, considering that the U.S. pulled out of the deal? Iran has not really been a good actor on a number of other fronts. How do you think this shapes up?
I don't think Europe's going to change their position. We were with the United States when this emerged, most recently, in declaring that we wanted a written report from the International Energy Agency. The Europeans opposed us, and that's very disappointing. Ultimately, the best thing we can do is have more eyes on Iran at the moment, and at the moment, the Europeans aren't as supportive as we would have hoped.
You are also the former treasurer for Australia, essentially their Secretary of Treasury, have a lot of experience on the world economic stage. You've expressed some disappointment in Trump administration policy when it comes to trade, and specifically trade in China. What's your thoughts on that and the prospects of it actually getting across the finish line?
Well, the bottom line is, Bret, that trade makes countries rich. It makes people rich. America became rich because it engaged in free and fair trade. President Trump is right to demand that there has to be fair trade. There needs to be reciprocal arrangements in the best interest of everyone. But at the same time, if we don't want to end up with higher taxes on everything we buy, if we don't want to end up with restrictions on the things we can buy, then we should all be advocates for free trade. Ultimately, tariffs and quotas mean that our consumers, the people in our community, end up paying more for goods.
Right, but their argument is to get it to zero between countries. Sometimes you have to break some China, no pun intended, to get there.
Well, I understand that, as long as you know what the end game is. And also, importantly, we are very keen for the United States to help to keep the international rules on trade. And so we want the United States to engage with the rest of the world in some of the multilateral organisations that the United States actually set up. The US set up the rules, they set up the system. We want the US to stay engaged. I believe President Trump will get there. I also, and Australia also, agrees that China has to play fair. And there's a lot of evidence to date to suggest they're not playing fair.
Quickly, one of the big issues in the U.S. that hasn't been addressed is infrastructure. You dealt with a plan in Australia. You presented that to the administration as a possibility. Where do you think that stands, or is politics getting in the way?
Yeah, politics is pretty thick and fast in Washington at the moment, and unfortunately it's leaving behind a plan to develop critical infrastructure.
Give them the cliff notes on the plan.
Well, the fundamental point is you've got so much private wealth here in America. Why not get it into building infrastructure? I mean, there's so much money going into the stock market. Why not get it into building roads, building hospitals, building new railways?
And cities and states don't even know what they have.
Well, that's a big problem because there's only 5 states in America that actually know what they own. It's startling. They actually have a list of the assets. Only 5 states in America know what railways they own, what roads they own, what buildings they own. And if you don't know what you own, you're never going to get to the point of either properly maintaining it or getting on with the job of building new infrastructure.
We'll see where that goes. Ambassador, I want to ask you about something else that's happening in your country, and that is these wildfires that are going all over the place. Officials warning that Australia's east coast, people to leave now. Firefighters saying to prepare for catastrophic conditions tomorrow. That's the country's highest level of fire danger. This is in the state of New South Wales, which includes Sydney. Wildfires there and in Queensland to the north have killed at least 3 people, destroyed more than 150 homes so far. That's something you haven't seen in quite some time.
Well, that's right. It's a catastrophic level alert in Australia around these fires. We have nearly 100 planes out there trying to douse the fires, and thousands of people are working at it. But the bottom line is it's a very similar country to California. We have eucalyptus trees, and that's like putting a sheet of fuel over the top of all the trees because they're full of oil, and when the fires burn in hot, dry conditions with a big wind, it's devastating.
Well, good luck on dealing with that. That's a massive problem.
Well, and thank you to a lot of firefighters that actually come from America to help fight the fires in Australia, because we send people over, as mates do, to help fight the fires in California.
And very quickly, I got to run, but on this Veterans Day, you have a special relationship between the Australian military and the U.S. military that goes back years and years.
Yeah, absolutely, Bret. For more than 100 years, we're the only country in the world that has fought side by side with American soldiers in every single major battle. We do it because we share values. We make no apologies to the rest of the world about it. And we thank your veterans as much as we thank our own.
Mr. Ambassador, we appreciate your time.
Anytime, Bret. Thank you.